Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back on another video. Today I want to review 3 headphones. So over here we have the Hyperx Cloud Alpha, and then we have the Beyerdynamic MMX100, and then lastly we have the Logitech G Pro X. So today we're going to find out which is the best headphone, what are they good at, and we'll talk about the comfort, sound quality, and everything. So yeah. These headphones this is like $100, this is about $100, and this is like $130. So this is a pretty even comparison in that sense. Please like and subscribe down below. It really helps my videos out. And yeah, stay tuned for the video. All right, so let's jump into the comparison of these 3 headsets. So the Logitech over here, and I mean, all these headsets are built pretty similar. They all have this kind of band with a kind of leatherette top to them, and then they got this like metal yoke on each of them into like an ear cup. So they're pretty much the same in that kind of build quality respect. They're all pretty similar. Now when it comes to like the pads, the Logitech has the best pads for sure, and it's the most comfortable of the bunch. I think the MMX100 is definitely the least comfortable, and then the HyperX Cloud Alpha is definitely kind of the balance, the middle of them both. And then when it comes to controls, actually, I think the Logitech has the worst controls because they only have a mute button on the the cable over here, versus on the HyperX, you actually have both a microphone button and a mute button, so you can kind of change the volume and everything. And then I would say the MX100 has the best controls because it's just on the ear cup. You can mute and change the volume on the ear cup, so it's not kind of tied to the line. So I think this one's the most convenient. Now let's talk about sound. So going from left to right, I think the Logitech is definitely kind of behind the pack. I would say the Logitech has the most tuned, the worst of the 3, and then also just kind of the driver sounds a little just not up to par. I think the drivers in these 2 headphones sound a lot better than this one. So really, I think the Logitech is left in the dust. But if I had to describe it in more detail, the Logitech kind of has a light bass versus the MX 100 has kind of the bassiest presentation. I think the bass is maybe a little bit too much, but my brother put it in a good way. He said this headphone sounds very cinematic, like you're in a movie theater. When you hear like the explosions blow up, like you can really feel it. And I think that's kind of the benefit of this headphone. But I think the HyperX probably has the most balanced bass, so you can hear the bass, you can feel it rumble, but it's not like overwhelming, or it doesn't take over as much as like the Beyerdynamic does. And I think this bass is definitely the most balanced of the presentation. Now when it comes to kind of like the mid-range where like you hear footsteps and like kind of like vocals, male, female vocals, I think the Logitech is kind of overemphasized a little bit, so it sounds a little kind of forward, which could kind of be good for listening for footsteps, honestly, if you're playing games. The Beyerdynamic, I think, is a slightly step back a little bit, but it's still pretty much really rich and detailed. And I would say the HyperX is pretty much balanced, like perfectly as always. The Logitech is probably the best tuned one in that sense of just being hyper like balanced. And then when you get to like the high end, the treble, where you kind of hear like the gunshots and kind of a lot of the detail and the higher, sound frequencies and stuff, the Logitech is definitely very kind of dark, so it's not very emphasized there. So you don't really hear as much of that detail, but it's not harsh at all. But I think you do lack a little bit of detail in this headset. Now, the Beyerdynamic, on the other hand, you kind of hear all the detail without being harsh. I think this one has kind of the best balance in that upper range. While the Cloud Alpha, it's probably its weakest point, but also maybe its strength too, in the sense that like it has definitely the most emphasis in the upper ranges in the treble, and it gives you a lot of detail, but at the same time sometimes it comes across as a little harsh too. So that's something to watch out if you're looking for this headphone. But overall, the way I would kind of categorize these headphones is if we talk about like kind of soundstage and imaging, things that like kind of help you with like telling the direction of your enemies, right? I think the Logitech it seems a little small and congested. I don't really think I like this headphone for like FPS games at all, like Valorant. I don't really like it. When it comes to these two for FPS games, I do think the HyperX is a little bit better. I think that HyperX has better kind of like location accuracy and also kind of presents a little bit more spaciousness versus I think the Beyerdynamic sounds kind of come really close to your ear as well. It's kind of similar to a Logitech, but it's still a little bit wider than a Logitech, I would say, but not as good as a HyperX. So I think if I want to play a lot of like competitive shooter games, I would go with the HyperX. And then in the end, I think if you're going for like the solo RPG type games, the single player type games, and you want to be immersed in your environment, I think the MMX100 does a better job than the HyperX. I think this headphone is just a lot of fun. It's really engaging to listen to. Like if you like bass, this is the headset. Anyways, I hope you guys like this comparison. Please like and subscribe down below to not miss any more of my headphone reviews and comparisons. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.